My shift began like always, music low, lines steady. Then she arrived, frail, in a blue cardigan, with eyes that had forgotten how to hope. "Coffee, please," she said softly. I don't know why I did it, but I smiled and said, "It's on me today." Her hands trembled as she accepted it. "Thank you," she whispered, like no one had said it in years. That cup, plain, warm, free, suddenly felt like the most important thing I'd ever given. She returned the next day. Same cardigan, same sadness, but now a hesitant smile. "Do you always give away coffee?" she asked. I laughed. "Only to special people." She chuckled, almost surprised she still could. We talked briefly. Weather, books, nothing deep. But when she left, she touched my hand gently. "You made this place feel less empty." I didn't know her story, but something in her voice made me feel like I was part of it now. Margaret didn't show up for weeks. Then one rainy morning, she walked in slowly, face pale but peaceful. "He passed," she said, "my husband." I stood frozen. She reached into her purse, pulled out the Starbucks cup, flattened and framed. I showed this at his memorial, told them how a stranger's kindness gave me courage. My chest tightened. I hadn't known what I was offering that day, but she had. And now her whole family stood behind her, nodding, some with tears. I'd never seen such quiet power in grief. Later that week, Margaret brought her granddaughter, Lily. "This is the barista I told you about," she said. Lily hugged me. "Thank you for helping Grandma smile again." We sat at a table, the three of us. Margaret shared stories, her wedding, his laugh, how they'd come here together when he was stronger. "He loved black coffee," she said, staring into her cup. That little table became a shrine, not of sorrow, but of connection. Every sip meant something now. I realized I'd become part of a healing ritual. One evening, just before closing, a man walked in and introduced himself as Margaret's son. "You gave her light in a dark time," he said. He handed me a small envelope. Inside was a photograph, Margaret holding her husband's hand in a hospital bed, with the framed coffee cup beside them. On the back, she'd written, "Tell Mason he gave us peace." My eyes stung. I never imagined a cup of coffee would echo into someone's final moments. But now, it had etched forever in their family story. The next morning, I placed a framed quote on the counter. "Kindness echoes beyond the moment." Margaret visited less often, but each time, we smiled like old friends. I kept her husband's photo in my locker. That cup had taught me, small gestures shape lives, and sometimes they save them. On what would have been their anniversary, Margaret returned one last time. "He would have loved this place," she said, eyes misty. I handed her a coffee, free of course, for him. I whispered. She held it close. That day, she didn't say goodbye, just a nod, a quiet thanks, a legacy sealed in a paper cup.